Hi, so I have about 9 tips I want to share with this alarm, this Wi-Fi alarm. So the first thing you want to do is after you install the application is actually to disable some of the permissions. So I'm going to go into my Android setting here and I'm going to scroll down to apps and I'm going to open up apps and I'm going to scroll all the way down to the WP6 application, and I'll tell you why later on. Is that it has even the camera and the microphone enabled, meaning that it could capture, your voice or whatever, and send it anywhere. So I'm going to open up the WP6 and you'll notice there is a choice here for permissions, and all of these originally were turned on. So the camera, the microphone, the phone itself, and the storage, the application actually had access to all of those things. So just turn all of those things off. I actually turned on location, which I'm guessing allows the app to at least locate where it is in the world for the time zone, or I guess adjusting, maybe not so much for the time zone, but whatever it needs. Maybe you could also turn that off, but I find that even with these permissions turned off, the app still works. So I've been using it for about a week now without those permissions, and it works fine. So that's the first tip. The second tip is actually when you are configuring this, it is very loud. This thing is louder than a smoke alarm or fire alarm, and you're this distance to it when you're actually setting it up and playing around with it. So the first thing you want to do is to turn the volume to the lowest volume and turn it to a tone that is not overwhelming. So for example, this is the fire alarm tone. So you don't necessarily want to work with that one. I usually work with the least annoying tone here, which is this beeping. Now the reason why I'm using the tone versus the doorbell is the doorbell only rings once, whereas this tone rings for the duration of whatever you set here, which is 5 seconds. So I am setting these to tolerable settings and testing it out when I am doing the setup. So keep that in mind. Is I did damage my ears, just testing even at level 3, much less level 5 or 4, at this close range. My ears were ringing for 3 days, after just setting it up with not necessarily that volume, but even a couple of beeps. Just testing it for a couple of beeps hurt my ears. It wasn't that it was even a continuous exposure to that loud noise. So that's very important. Make sure you do that. Now the third tip is that this main panel here is actually a motion detector. So as you are setting this up, it's going to be very confusing because you keep on setting off this motion detector as you're setting up the other devices. So you don't really want to use this as a motion detector at that point, so you want to disable it. And the way to do that is simply to go into the sensors and scroll all the way down to the bottom and delete it. You'll notice I have it deleted here. So that is the fourth tip. Now the fifth tip here is that there is a little bit of a quirk with the way the arm and disarm works. So when you arm and disarm, it actually resets your settings here. So just be aware of that. So for example, I am going to turn these off here. And you'll notice if I disarm with the remote control, and I am going to arm it, and this thing has a 10-second delay as far as the arming. So you'll notice that the settings are reset on my app after it is armed again. Now this isn't restrict, as you notice, like some of these things are reset. Now that is not restricted to the remote control. It is also the same when you have it on a schedule. So if I turn this alarm on at 10 p.m. at night and off at 6 a.m., that same effect occurs. So just keep that in mind. Though I find that it really doesn't affect too much because the sensors that aren't added just aren't added, and the ones that are deleted, it actually does retain that value. It doesn't re-add your detected sensors. So that's a good thing. Now, the other tip is these confusing terminology as far as control switch and push switch. So control switch simply means enable and disable. So if I push control switch, that's disabling that. And if I turn it on, that's enabling it. And the push switch is the notifications. So if I turn it off, I don't get a phone notification, and those phone notifications are these notifications here. So you could see I get a lot of these. During a demo like this, you'll get a lot, but in everyday usage, that won't occur. So keep in mind the terminology push, regardless of whether it's in the sensor menu or whether it's in this settings menu. Push means notifications to the phone. Now, the other tip here is, using some of the adhesives. So, just to stick these, you might not want to use the adhesive that comes with it because they're more or less very permanent. The ones you want to use might be these, 3M command stickies, that are easily removable and does not damage your walls and does not stick permanently to the door or window. So, look for these in the description area of my video. I'll have links to those. Now, the other aspect of this, and I'm going to set off the alarm here, is that this uses a somewhat non-standard battery. So if I open this up, you'll notice it uses a battery that's smaller than a AAA battery. So just keep that in mind. This battery is basically a battery that's called a 23 amp 12 volt battery. And this particular battery, once again, is about $1, and you could find it also in the description area of my video if you're hunting down and looking for this. These batteries do last about a year, which is good, even for this no-name brand here. So let me just put that in, and so that is one of the tips. Another tip there. Let's see. I believe that's it. That's all I have as far as the tips, and I hope this helped and makes at least some of your setup a little bit more streamlined than mine was. And please subscribe, and hope this was informational, and thank you for watching.